Now, I would like to move on to other speaker. We have a venture capital understanding as well as a technopark understanding. What can you say about it, Mr. Orhan? Well, Yıldız Technical University's Techno Kent can be briefly explained as such. Mr. Yasin uh, explained about their structure, and Yıldız Technical University appeared as the first Technokent in 2018, 19, and 2020, as announced by the minister. We have around 500 companies, and 150 of them are actually startups within the incubation process. Yıldız Technopark started this adventure in 2009, and one of the most important backers of the institution is Yıldız Technical University, which is almost 110 years old. And it is one of the top 6 universities in terms of technical capabilities. And here, our academic life and technopark experience are all passed on to different institutions. We are in Davut Pasha. Also, we have another place in İkitelli district. So here, in addition to providing space and academic support to different organizations, we also ensure, together with our board from Türk Telekom, Halkbank, and Kalyoncu Holding, so we are actually have an idea of creating an investment partnership as part of the venture capital understanding. We wait for the approval from Capital Markets Board. After that is established, we are going to provide the capital element. And as we discussed earlier, what matters here is taking care of the kitchen, finding the entrepreneurs, and we are a solution partner. And we provided, revised like over 7,000 business ideas. We turned 300 of them into companies, and 30 odd of them received significant investments. So we are talking about a remarkable infrastructure on the GTO side. We find the startups, we find academic support, we ensure that they come together with the business world. So actually, at Yıldız University, we treat the investors or entrepreneurs as the apples of our eye. And in 2018 and 19, we appeared as the top technopark based on 72 parameters or criteria. And here would like to appreciate, of course, the ministry for their valuable guidance to us. So Yıldız, in this ecosystem, guides the investors and entrepreneurs alike. We are a must-visit place for them. We want to take this vision outside as well, and we are now in the process of establishing an R&D center in Uzbekistan, or Technopark in Uzbekistan. We have another space in Silicon Valley. We will also have another unit, hopefully, in Dubai. And there is this meeting. There are these negotiations to take over a unit there. Yıldız will take this vision outside Turkey. Of course, here, investors and entrepreneurs are invited to visit Yıldız alike. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to move on to Ms. Elif again. After listening to Mr. Orhan, we can address these topics for an entire day after these brief introductions. But let me now ask you about TÜBİTAK's investment programs and other sort of subsidies or incentives. You have programs implemented in certain verticals. Can you kindly tell about them? Thank you very much. As you stated, the ecosystem does not consist of one piece only. Here we have technoparks, TT of universities, financial institutions, and industrialists are all part of it. And we see other institutions, and we created support mechanisms for them. Mr. Yasin and Professor Orhan already told about the support mechanisms. First, we have a support program for the technology transfer offices of the universities that work in stages. Every year, we actually ensure that they have this diversification of their services in the long term. This is a very well run program because the implementer organizations also took it to implement within their own structure. TÜBİTAK strived to deliver it by itself at the beginning, but now we do it through the actually coordination of implementing organizations, which proved more beneficial. And implementing institutions or organizations also showed such success in their incubation centers. And in 2019, we said this should not apply to big entrepreneurships only or startups only. We said SMEs younger than 12 years can actually have their commercialization of their R&Ds, and that was supported by Big Plus. We enabled them to enter new markets. We encouraged them to also have further exports. And here we decided to support the interface institutions through mentorship programs. And we had 319 SMEs and startups matching with mentors so far. And we are going to see the benefits of it in the first half of 2022. And based on the performance analysis, the Big Plus or mentorship program will be evaluated in terms of what the next phase should be. We will get valuable opinions of our stakeholders and create a roadmap. Also, as part of the entrepreneurship ecosystem, we have 1,514 program. And as we launched this program, we evaluated the successful investor ecosystems in the world. And we saw that the technology-based ecosystems generally are spawned in the backyards of the universities. Sometimes they can emerge in technoparks or research infrastructures or technology transfer offices. That is also the case in our country, but the first capital support for these actually startups is provided by the venture capitals. That wasn't the case in our country. And that was the situation back in 2018 as our universities lacked financial means. And even if they had money, they weren't actively operating in this field. So we wanted to design such a mechanism that we wanted to accumulate both financial and human resources and enhance capacity. That's why we made a call, and thankfully all technology transfer offices, funds, and technoparks showed interest. We chose 10 funds back then, and then we wanted them to have strong source structures so that they can make big scale investments. And we had a collaboration with the Treasury and finance ministry. We saw the creation of 4 funds, and we are about to have the 5th fund now. 3 out of 4 were established outside Turkey, 2 in the Netherlands, 1 in Luxembourg, and another one was established in Turkey, and it was supported by the funds of these institutions. The next one will also be established in Turkey. So actually, national and international markets provided this 64 times the sort of support provided by TÜBİTAK. And when you look at these funds, you see they supported 28 actually startups with over 180 euros, with 186 million euro worth of investments. We are going to hopefully have the second call so that we can have actually funds in a thematic understanding. Congratulations, Miss Elif. I think when you initiated the program 6 years ago, I saw that it all emerged as a dream, and now you say you activated 64 times more than the sort of support provided by TÜBİTAK. Actually, you say that Technopark and universities have a huge share. Now, I would like to move on to Mr. Yasin. You value the concept of incubation center. So let's move on to that. How should we interpret it? Can you kindly compare the examples in Turkey and outside Turkey? Well, basically, when we are to define technoparks or set out success criteria for them, honestly, the first startup is examined in terms of how the baby was grown, what kind of a culture was instilled, what kind of products we're going to see moving forward. We need to have actually metric criteria for that. In addition to them, we want to have mature organizations in technoparks as they serve as the engine of the ecosystem or enable the other stakeholders to survive because they mean revival, and they also provide mentorship and coaching for technology development. Also, they lend their support in financial senses, thinking about Turkey's circumstances. So I think they can be taken as a basis. When we compare them with other examples in the world, we see that technoparks and incubation centers actually do not come together under a formal understanding. They started these activities years ago. When we compare them with us, we see that the incubation activities turn to a high street business where you see everyone having the opportunity to do something, and also the youth are considered as part of it. Today we talk about the importance of cafes, traditional Turkish cafes, in terms of reading books. So when looked at from that perspective, actually a brand or cafe serves as an important function in terms of the socialization of youth. We feel it all the more in Turkey. So when we compare our incubation centers with other examples outside Turkey, and they have been part of this system, I have been part of this system for 8 years now. So the youth, I mean, I would say young entrepreneurs, as they are different from youth. When we say startups, it appears like we are referring to a certain age group. That's not the case. So startups like techno parks, and here I also use universities within parentheses as there's this ongoing education process. So they take into account all these institutions, and this is like a disciplined uh, institution with certain obligations, or this is actually a place where we can enter and live through certain cards as required by the ministry. We also provide certain exemptions to them. So it's like this is a discipline that lie, unfortunately, at the margin of their freedoms. That's unfortunately how they may view it. In examples outside Turkey, we see the lack of doors, windows, or keys, let's say. Unfortunately, we have places with keys even in Turkey. So outside Turkey, these are the places where we can have more dialogue with each other. That is the sort of incubation center there. What kind of a contribution do they have? Regresio Tekmer, for example, is provided by COSGAP, or TÜBİTAK has its big program. So if you look at the legislation, uh, 4621, I think that's a big initiative. TTO is another initiative, and also big program contributed a lot. We learned many things as Istanbul Technopark. Of course, this is just a carrot, but when we talk about the entrepreneurs coming here, they go through a certain type of education, and that means actually valuable input for the carriers of this ecosystem, as we can easily integrate them to our system. They learn about the jargon rather than just getting stuck at ABC. So the big support of plus, also big plus support of TÜBİTAK are very important incentives, and I think all the new entrepreneurs and startups should avail of them.
Alanları tek başına.
So we don't have exclusions for other people. I mean, we don't say that we accept you if you go through this venue. So if any entrepreneur, if they already have found an investment from private sector, we also accept them into our incubation center. Of course, we have an evaluation period, but what matters for us is that, you know, having an access to real money is more important than migrating into our center with dreams only. So we'd like them to carry some stuff when they're coming to us. So in this regard, the business people or holdings or other mature companies, if they establish incubation centers, they're going to be supporting these institutions as well. So starting from the tech companies with a certain number of people working, they're going to be coming to the fore, but the conventional companies should establish their incubation centers as well. If the entrepreneur is born in that place, it allows us to carry them further. So we would not be wasting time in the initial periods. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mustafa. Let's say the enterprise got support from TÜBİTAK and grew in Teknokent Incubation Center. Now it is the time to access to bigger funds. You know, with GCYPs, what should the investors and entrepreneurs expect? Let's say there is an angel investor doing investment through your funds. How does it work? Let me talk about the entrepreneur first and then the investor. I see this thing as a game. You know, the traditional company structure with tailor-made software or equipment, well, they can establish a certain success. This is one way to go. The speed and targeting the global market is important here. At the very beginning, there are incubation centers, there are technoparks, and we have acceleration centers as well. And we are a B2B implementer as Al Baraka as well. And then it is the time for the investor. There are two things, there are two aims for the investor. The first one is to speed up the process. The investor wants to accelerate the process when there is a beautiful model, beautiful idea. What they are trying to do is that they like to support the entrepreneur without expecting anything. So the entrepreneur should have a passion, could be an individual person or a team. And what should be expected from the entrepreneur is carrying the whole thing to the next level. So it's not just money in the world. In Turkey, the competition is increasing in Turkey as well. So people are choosing entrepreneurs, right? So angel investment is an important element of this process. But when the institutions come into the play, bigger amounts are the issue, and they come for longer durations. So the entrepreneur expects mentor support, network support, other than the money from the investor. And the investor creates her own ecosystem as well. I said we have 15 active investment, but we have 34 portfolio companies. We are a bank. You know, we have a network. So when you say like that, we are talking about a huge ecosystem. And what can we provide? Basically, this is what the
imkanımız var.
entrepreneur should look into. So we have the capacity to make them go together with all the other entrepreneurs. So on the banker side, there's an instrument. It's the Forex is an instrument, shares is an instrument, real estate is another one. If people want to invest in tech companies, there are different ways of doing that. You can have an investment in stock exchange that has been publicly listed. It's difficult to find something like that in the new companies because they're not listed most of the time. But they can also invest in foreign companies, or they can invest in under institutions under the capital markets council. So you can also have investment at the SME level, but we're talking about entrepreneurship now. So these funds are being managed by a professional team. They're collected at a pool. Angel investing is a tiresome work, by the way. But when they come to GCYFs, when there's a fund, the investor is being entrusted to a professional team, and in a pool, there's a more healthy portfolio management with that. Thank you very much. Mr. Orhan, there's a venture capital investment partnership at Yıldız. Can you please talk about that? What is this venture capital partnership? What was your aim at the very establishment? And please expand on that. We chose the hard one with that. In terms of investment, between GSFO and GSYF, there's not much different. But GSYOs are managed by a portfolio management system. There's a team to manage the portfolio, but GSYOs establish this structure within their own team. They are in the kitchen, so to speak, and they do their own evaluations. For GSIYO, the partners of our Halkbank, Yıldız Teknokent, and Kalyon. We have a bolder approach to this structures that we call Death Valley. You know, in funds managed by these structures, KPIs are different, but at the end of the day, the team is bearing the responsibility of managing a capital. But our departure point is that in the incubation, we want to support these companies. From a more strategic point of view, our kitchen seems to be ready. From the side of Halkbank, we're going to be managing this through Halk Investment. As I said, at Yıldız, we find human resources as well, because we are backed by a university with 37,000 students. We provide opportunities of investment as well. On the Yıldız side, we chose the hard one with GSYO. And from that point, somebody has to bear the responsibility for that. Our partnership is the biggest value that we have from that point. And Halkbank wanted to start with much larger figures, by the way, but we said we should start with smaller numbers. And then in the follow-up, once the system is established, with the structure of Yıldız that touches upon many things, many places. It touches upon Turkic republics, North Africa, for example. In our İkitelli branch, there is a building incubator, a Bina incubator that carries the companies in North Africa to Turkey. So Yıldız is right in the middle of the whole thing. And its size, in terms of could be used for the good of the country. This is, by the way, why we're establishing this whole thing. We're waiting for approval from SPK, and once we have it, as Mr. Mustafa mentions, all the partners are basically they can't wait to place their investment. We have made the necessary analysis, and we identified things in which we're going to make investments. In the incubation center, there's a huge dynamism, by the way, and it should not be ignored. So the incubation centers, host companies between 0 to 3 years of age. Once they're 3 years of age, they have to be graduated from the incubation center, and it creates a kind of a turnover, and it provides access to entrepreneurs for us. And we are at the initial level as of now. We have not made the investment and got the experience yet, but in the follow-up with our partners, this system could be grown a lot bigger. Other than that, as Technopark, with the rector of the university, we visited the companies, and when we do visit them, they ask for two things. The first one is the place, the venue. The second one is HR. The issue of capital, I think they are making some, so they're not asking for that initially. So about that, the system is developing. I came from a 50 years old company to this point, by the way, about the capital markets. I experienced public listings and similar things. But the structures remaining from the old times of Turkey, if they want to renew themselves, this is how they're going to do that. So the experience of GSYO, we'd like to be able to share this experience with these companies. You said something very beautiful. Well, all the actors are interconnected in this ecosystem, right? It's not just in the boundaries of Turkey. It involves their partnerships outside the country as well. Maybe we might want to expand on that. Ms. Elif, as TÜBİTAK, with EBRD and World Bank, you have cooperations, right? Can you expand on the program that you jointly run? Thank you once again. We support our entrepreneurs within the country, but we expect them to go commercial and, if possible, go international. So to our entrepreneurs, we try and help them to improve their relations with their shareholders domestically and internationally. We run cooperations with global shareholders, for example. One of them is a project that we work with United Nations. It is the program of clean technologies, and we have been doing that since 2011, and as we have been very successful, UN has accepted the second phase of the program, and for the first time, they accepted TÜBİTAK as the executive organ. We had to go through an independent evaluation, and we're at the phase of signing the contract now. We're going to be supported by the Global Climate Fund, and we're going to start a new project that is $10 million of size. We're going to be providing support for mentorship, and we're going to support them to go international in clean technologies. We're going to bring them together with the investors, both in the country, by the way, investors being in the country and outside. So we have programs that we're going to run with our shareholders. Other than that, we have a program called Leaders in Innovation. We work with Oxford College in the UK. It is a program called Katip Çelebi Newton Fund. In this year, 11 entrepreneurs have been brought together with national and international mentors. From enterprise to investment, they have received 45 lectures in different fields. and they're going to be graduating in November 25. We used to take them to London in the past, but in the last 2 years, we have been running the program online. And until now, 67 entrepreneurs were brought together with international networks. And if they wanted, they established offices in London. They established a field of investment, and they have made cooperations across Europe. And we also work a program, a cooperation program in women entrepreneurship. We run it with EBRD. 10 women entrepreneurs were brought together with the mentors, and the programs are focused on increasing the exports, by the way. Other than that, we have cooperations within the country as well. We have a techno catalog cooperation with DMO, State Material Office. And we want to increase the public sales of our startups, by the way. In Techno Catalog, there are about 100 companies, and 52 of them receive support, and they have made sales over 30 million Turkish liras, and 20 million of that has been developed with the support of TÜBİTAK. Other than that, in investment, we have membership into Investment Council of Etki Investment. The resources in the investment, we are looking for possible cooperation. Thank you very much. You're doing great work, and it will be better. Mr. Yasin, you have IQ program, international incubation centers, right? Yes. You know, iCube has been a project that we had been dreaming since the very beginning. The technoparks, when they lacked international perspective in a certain time, I believe they're going to die out. So these muscles, therefore, should be improved as quick as possible. We spent a lot of effort in Arut Teknokent as well, and the same went with Istanbul University Teknokent. iCube, we're trying to establish that as an institute. We established in 2018. You know, iCube is like International Incubation Institute. You know, iCube, like it's a triple I, and then we started with a country that we know very well. We started with London, by the way. We received more than 200 applications, and these applications came from the technoparks and the entrepreneurial centers of the universities, like Özyeğin University. So we have received applications from these centers as well. We provided training for 50 of them, by the way. It takes 4 months. 2 months take place in Istanbul, and we make Istanbul demo day stage for the first 2 months, and afterwards we go international and we check whether they have the capacity to presentations in English or not. And then we provide more specified trainings as well. Sometimes in the UK, you know, there's 99-second presentations. You know, I get more stressed than them perhaps, but, you know, the best entrepreneur is basically the one that can explain herself very well. So after providing all these trainings, we send some of them to London. We took 21 entrepreneurs to them, and 4 of them received investment, actually. Other 4 have opened offices there with our facilitation. And as we are talking about technology, as we're talking about exporting with a click enter, so it should not be limited to renting a place or limiting ourselves, confining ourselves into these places. So the key word in our ecosystem is the network management. And once we don't do that, all the physical expenses turn into costs. So in this regard, we try to keep as the network management as broad as possible. We started with London, then we had the pandemic. We're going to diversify its feet, by the way. We're going to be doing the American feet in 2 or 3 places. We have an extension of iCube. We are planning to have an extension of iCube in Singapore, another one in South Africa. And after the pandemic, we're going to put these 2 in gear, basically. And our target is that we should have these companies with export potential. That is ideally. And that is actually the case. It should be the basis of all the technocans in Turkey. The right implementation creates the basis for the other practices, the other cases. So we're trying to proliferate good examples, and we are trying to be an institution that's going to expand globally. Mr. Orhan, you have cooperations as such. You have Games Up program, you have special program for fintechs, and you have another one in Silicon Valley. We are reaching the end of our time, but can I get that briefly? Let me talk about Games Up first. We run it with Skylight. It's a program of 1.5 million size. The basic aim with that program is that, the gaming is a rising star, right? And successful unicorns came out of that sector, and a lot of people resorted to this sector. So to create the follow-up of the success stories, we started this program, and we we have 90% support level. For those who did not open up to the world, we are going to be establishing the infrastructure and provide mentorship support. And for 2 of them, either we're going to invest in them or we're going to be providing investment. And as Ms. Elif said, it's important to establish the kitchen, so to speak. This is what matters to develop these muscles. I'd like to talk about StarCamp a bit, and this is created by 5 leading institutions, and StarTurk incorporation in this, our partner is the Technopark of Istanbul University. Other than that, with Gebze Technical University, Bahçeşehir, and Hasan Kalyoncu universities, we organized this in 2016. We take our entrepreneurs from here to Silicon Valley and provide a necessary program for that. Silicon Valley is basically a common road for every entrepreneur. So we offered facilitation in this process, but with the pandemic, we had to give a break to it. Yeah, about the fintechs. Yes, about the fintechs. We started a fintech program with Ziraat Bank's technology, and then Halkbank is waiting for that as well. In the finance center, we're going to establish a fintech incubation with Halkbank, as Halkbank. So in this acceleration program, we want to facilitate them focus on what they're doing. We just don't want them to be wasted away. And as Yıldız University, from the very beginning of the ideas, we are providing huge supports to them. We are doing a lot of sacrifices, and this is a management cost for us, actually. But the main thing from the technoparks is to provide the profit to this ecosystem, right? And there is a legal regulation on that. There's no clarification about how to implement this law, but if the net profit exceeds 1 million Turkish liras, 22% should be transferred to venture capital funds. So this is the legal regulation. So priority is the value, capital, human resources, and the know-how transfer. This is what we are trying to do. Thank you. Mr. Mustafa, let me ask the last question to you. On the GSYF side, you have institutions with whom you're cooperating. Can you expand on some of them very briefly, please? We're at the end of our time. This declaration provides a lot of field for maneuver for us, and we like establishing instruments in different areas. There are funds we established and opened to the investor later, retirement funds, for example, to individual or corporate investors. With IT Valley, we have cooperations, and Al Baraka Turk and this IT Valley, they have a joint effort, and we are supporting them in operational terms. I think it is a first of its kind in Turkey. The investment committee is made up of the representatives of the private sector. It is managed fully by Al Baraka team. So this fund is dedicated to manage the IT Valley. So we also establish funds with different holdings in the fields that they want to invest. We have hybrid funds. We have Smart Cities Fund, for example. Smart cities and renewable technologies. Well, we're going to this fund is going to invest in that. It also helps bring all the investment together under a fund. It's like a roof institution that facilitates receiving further investment. One last thing, if I may, we have single company, single fund structures as well to receive a direct funds to our companies rather than or public listing. Rather than that, once you position your company under this fund, you can take investors and let them go very fast. So we're trying to cover the whole ecosystem with that. Thank you very much. We have a question from the audience. The question goes to, I think, Mr. Yasin and Miss Elif. Starting with a new enterprise, should we start from TÜBİTAK or Teknokent? Let me just put it very briefly, and then I'll give the floor to you if you allow me. As if it is a new enterprise, so it is at the idea level. So there is going to be an application to BIC, I think. We developed the definition of BIC, by the way, in the past. The applicant should have been in the last grade of the universities, or it should be 10 years maximum from the graduation day. So it could be any kind of education, or the applicant could be a student or a graduate. If there's someone with a business idea and needs support, and if that person wants to apply for a big program, we recommend the closest one initially. As I said, we work with 63 implementer institutions. They are very well. They're very well positioned together. By the way, all of them are successful, and they can go to the closest implementing institution and apply. We have the list of them at the website of TÜBİTAK, by the way. Thank you. We exceeded our time. I hope it has been useful. We touched upon all the actors of the ecosystem. Thank you very much for the contribution, and thanks for being with us.